I'm looking to make gel. I need it for the spinal discs between each spine bone or vertebrae of my robot. It has to be absorbent and kind of firm-ish. And I also would like to make gel for soundproofing between layers of drywall. Hair gel, I feel like would just squeeze and flatten out. It doesn't have as much stiffness as I'd like. I want something that will kind of get hard-ish. Something less watery. Plastigel 10. Yeah, that would maybe work. Although that's super expensive, right? Isn't that what people make for taking molds of like chickens? I would like something cheap. Mold making materials are like super expensive. Like ridiculous. Like way too expensive. Oh, bye, Vadkrissa.
Flat-sill gelatin face cast for prosthetic work. We're going to make a permanent reusable flat-sill gel tin thickened with polyfiber. We're going to need to smooth that out so our shell will fit on there without any little lumps or places creating distortions later on when we go to cast into that mold. So once we get that all on, we're going to use a stir stick to smooth that out. And you'll notice we can trowel those edges very smooth, and we can make sure we eliminate any brush marks or any of the little drippy areas that were formed in the application process.
Silicone caulk I think is actually too stiff, so I'm looking for something in between silicone and like plastigel. Because silicone will actually get like completely hard. And it won't have enough sponginess.
Now again, you're shooting for about a 1/4 inch thick mold to 3/4 of an inch. Anything more than that and you have more weight than you need and you have more silicone used than you need, and extra silicone equals extra money spent, and we don't want to spend any more on this mold than we have to. Now, all told, we used about 1,000 grams total to make the while the and we've got a warm slide.
Alright, I got it. So the reason the gummy bears get hard is because of evaporation. The moisture evaporates out of the gummy bears, causing them to become dried out, and they get more dense, harder, and lose their squishiness. In order to prevent that, you need to keep them airtight. So if you're going to use gummy bears for your soundproofing between walls, you'll need to coat the gummy bears in silicone caulk. The silicone will create an airtight barrier, preventing the gummy bears from drying out. I think that's all you have to do. Now, as far as using gummy bears for my robot, I think that would be perfectly fine. All I have to do is encapsulate the gummy bears again, and I'd be fine. I can't actually think of an advantage to buying gelatin and stirring it when I could have pre-made gelatin in the form of gummy bears. I actually don't see an advantage. I might as well use the gummy bears. They're already cut up. They can be shaped in any way. They're like building blocks. They're like using little bricks of building materials. I don't see any problem with that. Then again, you're basically buying water, since a gummy bear is just gelatin mixed with water. So you could save money by adding your own water to the powder, I think. But I'm not even sure how it would compare. Let's see, $10 for a 5-pound bag. I'm not sure. The gummy bears would definitely be cheaper for soundproofing, because you don't want to have to mix your own and then cut it into all the squares. It'd take forever. Like polyurethane? And that would create a seal on them to waterproof them. No, I feel like silicone would work though fine. Yeah, just get them all covered in silicone and stick them on the wall. I think that would work. Although that would take a long time. But any gel, that's going to be the case. I think that's how every gel product is made. You first form the gel how you want. You can affect the thickness based upon refrigeration time and water to powder mixture ratio. But then the bottom line is, after you have your shape, you need to coat it in silicone. The silicone coating enables it to never dry out, and it just stays squishy forever.
Difference between agar agar and gelatin. Have you marveled at the thickness and consistency of desserts that are served at restaurants and in parties? Have you ever wondered what makes soups so thick and yummy? It is made possible by thickening agents such as agar agar and gelatin, both of which are used across the world in preparation of desserts and soups. Despite similar function, there are differences between agar agar and gelatin that will be highlighted in this article. Gelatin is derived from animal sources, whereas agar agar is derived from plant sources. Vegetarians and vegans dislike gelatin in their recipes because of its animal sources and prefer agar agar. Agar agar is also labeled by some as a plant gelatin or a vegetarian gelatin. Gelatin comes from collagen obtained from muscles, tendons, cartilage, skin, and bones of animals. Agar agar comes from seaweed found in Red Sea. Agar agar contains more minerals than gelatin given its source of origin. Agar agar is a great thickening agent that works as a substitute of gelatin for the vegetarians.
Oh wait, it's $7. 21. No, it's about double the price. Alright, a few bags of this actually should get me there. So that's not bad. And with this agar stuff, it's not going to melt. We don't have to worry about that. That's good. Actually, I should buy the non-free shipping kind and order 3. Because they'll give me a shipping deal that way. Okay, I think we're good. We're going to watch Hell's Kitchen while eating and working out. That's the plan, and that's going to be the closure of the day. I did not have enough time to do shelf building because I was doing tons of research, solving a major exciting new thing on my to-do list, which is how am I going to build a replacement for green glue for soundproofing for vibration dampening purposes. We wanted a gel substance that would not harden, and my solution for that is to coat gummy bears in silicone caulk and get that squishiness for vibration dampening. Now, the gummy bear's only downside is they begin melting at over 90 degrees Fahrenheit. However, in a house, it shouldn't get that hot, and it shouldn't get so cold under 34 degrees that it's becoming too hard. So in a normal room temperature house, we won't have any issues. It should work great. And the gummy bears will not dry out because they're going to be coated in silicone caulk. So they'll be airtight. And so that will solve that. Maybe in like 20 years they'd eventually dry out, just because silicone caulk probably isn't perfect at making it airtight, but it'd be darn close. So that's a radical outside-the-box solution for soundproofing. It's going to save me a fortune compared with using green glue, which is like $25 for a tube of caulk. It's ridiculous. I figured out how I'm going to do the artificial vertebral discs for the robot's spine. You know what those are, right? They're padding. They have to be squishy. Well, first I was going to use polyethylene foam, but people warned me that eventually will flatten out. It's spongy for a time, but eventually it would get like less and less poofy and then eventually start flattening. Just like the cushion of a chair. So I was like, no, I don't think that's good then. So then I was like, well, I would prefer like a gel. And then I researched gel. I found out how to make my own. You can either use gelatin and water, which is how they make ballistics gel for testing bullets. You can make it the same density and very similar to how a muscle would work, like in terms of thickness, density, everything else. But the problem with gelatin is at 90 degrees or higher, it starts to turn back into a liquid. And so that wouldn't work. So I researched some more, and it turns out this other thing called Agar Agar is a gelatin substitute. What? Agar Agar, A-G-A-R. A-G-A-R space A-G-A-R. I don't know why you say it twice, but it's called Agar Agar. And it's a gelatin substitute that's based on seaweed instead of animal fats and cartilage and stuff condensed into gelatin. And it does the exact same thing, except it melts at 180 degrees Fahrenheit, which means it won't be an issue. Like, it's not going to be melting. So I'm going to make an Agar Agar based gel. I'm going to encapsulate it in the double stick tape patches. So I'll make the gel in the shape of the spinal disc in a mold. I'll pour it in, let it cure, whatever. And then I'll wrap it in the double stick tape patches I make in order to prevent it from drying out. Because slowly gel stuff can dry out. So I'm going to coat it airtight and then install it. And it'll be a squishy, perfect, artificial vertebral disc. What's up, Matt Pagan? So I chose Agar Agar powder, which I guess is different from gelatin, in that with gelatin you just mix it in cool water or warm water. I've seen both. And it creates a gel. With Agar Agar powder, you mix it into boiling water and it creates a gel, I guess. I'm going with Agar Agar powder because its melting point is 180 degrees Fahrenheit. It's very soft. Can't you change the hardness? No. Agar powder, they said you could use it for ballistics gel. Which, that sounds fine. That's the same consistency or hardness of a muscle. Which sounds perfect to me. It's used as a gelatin substitute in cooking. By changing up the concentration of the powder, I imagine you can change up the density of the gel. So you probably use a very low density quantity of powder with respect to water to get a really squishy gel that was super soft. But I'm going for a harder gel. So I think I'll be fine. It only costs twice the amount, but it's not going to just start melting because it goes out over 100 degrees. So 180 degrees, that's like an oven. I don't think it'll get that hot for a sustainable period of time. So I'll be using Agar Agar powder to create the artificial vertebral discs for the robot.